My name is Rosa. And 2 weeks ago, I sat down and did the one thing I'd been avoiding for years. I actually added up where my money went. Not this month, not this year, the last 5 years. The number I should have had sitting in savings? $47,000. The number that was actually there? Less than 2,000. I'm not going to tell you I was reckless. I didn't blow it on anything dramatic. No yacht, no gambling, no obviously stupid decisions. I had a steady job. I paid my bills. I genuinely believed I was doing the right things. I did everything that felt responsible. Turns out that was the whole problem. Because the things that drained $47,000 out of my life weren't big visible mistakes. They were 11 small ones. Quiet, invisible, completely normal. The kind of habits that feel responsible from the outside because everyone around you does them too. That's what makes them so effective. And that's exactly what this is about. I had automated everything in my life except the one thing that actually mattered. Netflix? Automatic. Gym? Automatic. Phone bill? Cloud storage? Every subscription I'd ever signed up for, all of it was hitting my account on a schedule I set once and forgot about completely. But savings? Manual. Whenever I remembered. With whatever happened to be left over after the month, had already taken everything it wanted from me. That's not a saving strategy. That's hoping money accidentally survives long enough for me to notice it. Here's the thing nobody told me. Behavior follows architecture. You don't rise to the level of your intentions. You fall to the level of your systems. When spending is automatic and saving is manual, you've already decided how this ends. You just haven't admitted it yet. The fix isn't complicated. The moment your paycheck lands, a transfer fires automatically to savings. Before your brain registers the money as available, before lifestyle has any chance to claim it. You live on what's left, you adjust. And the savings happen whether you remember or not. 10% minimum. Not next month, not when the raise comes. Today, with whatever you currently make, the amount matters less than building the system first. The month I finally did this, I saved more than the entire previous year combined. I thought I was being smart every time I bought something on sale. I wasn't. The notification would hit my phone. 40% off today only. My brain would light up. I'd spend $80 on things I wasn't thinking about 20 minutes earlier and walk away convinced I'd saved 53. I used to ask myself the same question after every haul. When did I actually want any of this before the sale showed up? Almost never. I bought it because it was discounted. Not because I needed it. Not because I would have bought it at full price. Only because someone told me it was a deal. Here's the truth nobody in retail wants you to know. You did not save $53. You spent $80. Those are different things. You can't deposit money you didn't spend. It doesn't exist. The only money that counts is the money that stays. The anchor price is a trick. The countdown timer is a trick. The only 3 left in stock warning is a trick. Retailers set the original price, knowing it'll do most of the psychological work for them. And it works, especially on people who've convinced themselves that hunting deals is a form of discipline. It isn't. It's impulse spending in a nicer outfit. The real test is simple. Would I have bought this at full price before the notification arrived? If the answer is no, if the only reason it's in my cart is the discount, it's not a bargain. It's just less money I didn't need to spend. That year, I added up every deal I bought, $1,340. None of it was on my list in January. I told myself I knew what subscriptions I had. I did not. When I sat down with 3 months of bank statements and went through every recurring charge, I found 14. I only recognized 8. There was a meditation app I downloaded during one stressful week, 8 months earlier. 3 sessions total, $79.92. A software trial I never got around to canceling. Cloud storage from a second provider I'd completely forgotten existed. Each one was small enough to scroll past. Together, they were adding up to over $150 a month, nearly $2,000 a year, gone, quietly, every single month. Subscription businesses are built to survive your inattention. That's not an accident, it's the model. Free trials require a credit card because a meaningful percentage of people simply forget to cancel. The cancel button is buried in 3 submenus because friction works. Renewal emails go to addresses nobody checks. This is by design, and you can stop participating in it. Every 3 months, go through every recurring charge and ask one question. If I had to manually renew this today, knowing exactly how much I use it, would I? Anything less than an immediate yes. Cancel it. You can always resubscribe. You can't get back the 12 months that already slipped past. I upgraded my apartment not because I needed more space. I upgraded it because my old address felt embarrassing next to my new job title. I bought the brand name version of things when the generic was identical. I replaced a phone that still worked fine because last year's model had started to feel like a liability at the table. I spent money on a version of my life that was designed to be seen by colleagues, by friends, by people who honestly weren't thinking about my apartment for more than 30 seconds total. I was performing a lifestyle for an audience that wasn't watching. And here's the cruelest part about this kind of spending: it has no finish line. There's always a newer model, a better neighborhood, a more impressive version of whatever you just bought. Every upgrade resets your baseline and immediately creates a new gap between where you are and where the next level is. You cannot buy your way into security by spending money to look secure. Those are two completely different directions. The people who are actually wealthy, not appearing wealthy, actually wealthy, tend to have one thing in common. They don't care much about looking wealthy. Ordinary cars, houses they can comfortably afford. Quality where quality makes a real functional difference. Nothing more. Every dollar I spent on looking like I was doing well was a dollar that couldn't go toward actually doing well. The apartment upgrade felt like a reward. It was a trap. Every extra dollar I made for the next 2 years went straight to covering the new baseline I'd created for myself. The credit card balance had just always been there. I paid what I could. It went up some months, down a little in others. There was always a vague plan to deal with it someday. Someday never came, and at some point, carrying a balance stopped feeling like a problem and started feeling like just how it is. That's the trap. Over 60% of Americans carry credit card debt. Average balance over $5,000. Average interest rate above 20%, which means on a $5,000 balance, I was handing my bank close to $1,000 a year, not to buy anything, not to pay down the principal, just to continue owing money. $1,000 a year for nothing. Debt is not weather. You don't have to wait it out. You don't have to manage around it forever. But getting rid of it requires treating it with the urgency it actually deserves, not the passive tolerance it gets when it becomes background noise. Pick the smallest balance. Throw everything available at it. When it's gone, roll that payment into the next one. Snowball, avalanche, pick whichever keeps you moving. What matters is deciding to actually go after it instead of just living with it like it's permanent. Because it isn't permanent. It just feels that way when you stop treating it like an emergency. And just when I finally had a real plan to fix the debt, I got a promotion, more money. Finally, I'd been careful and patient, and now there was room to breathe. So I upgraded my apartment, got a better car, started eating at nicer places, refreshed the wardrobe. Took a longer trip. I deserved it. I worked for it. I earned every bit of it. 6 months later, I felt exactly as financially stressed as I did before the raise. The savings hadn't moved. The goals were still in the same place. I was running faster than ever and completely standing still. Here's the math I wish someone had put in front of me. The raise was $800 a month. Apartment upgrade, $400. New car payment, $250. The general cost of living nicer, another $200. Net improvement to my financial situation, 0. I had taken a raise and perfectly converted it into a new set of fixed expenses. This is lifestyle inflation. And the sneaky part isn't just that it wastes the money, it's that every upgrade becomes a floor you can't easily drop below without it feeling like you're going backward. The lifestyle that felt like a reward becomes a cage with a really nice interior. Every time income goes up, the first question shouldn't be, what can I afford now? It should be, how much of this goes directly toward building something real before my lifestyle notices any of it? A good target: at least 50% of every raise into savings or debt before a single upgrade happens. Upgrade slowly after the foundation is actually there. The reward for that discipline isn't deprivation, it's actual freedom, which is a completely different thing than the performance of it. I knew the car payment was going to be tight. I did it anyway because it felt right. I kept a gym membership for 8 months after I stopped going because canceling felt like admitting something. I put money into a thing a friend was excited about because the energy in the room was good and I didn't want to be the skeptic in the corner. Every single one of those decisions followed the same sequence: feel something, decide, then find the math to support it after the fact. Not because I was stupid, because that's the default human sequence. We want the thing first. Then we go looking for reasons. The sequence that actually works is different. Feel first. That part's fine. Your gut carries real information. Then calculate with actual numbers, not the optimistic version, then decide. In that order. Here's how to know if you're doing it wrong. If you're building a case for why you can manage something rather than simply seeing that you can. That case is a red flag wearing the costume of a plan. The math you do before you've decided is different from the math you do to justify a decision you've already made. Run the numbers before the emotion closes the door. Then ask what your future self, the one looking at a bank statement 3 months from now, is going to think about this call. That version of you is going to tell you the truth. Give them something decent to find. Every Sunday, I had the same plan: track every expense this week, meal prep, transfer money to savings the second I get paid, say no to the unnecessary stuff. The plan was real. I meant every word. By Wednesday, it was gone. By Friday, it had never existed. Not because I was weak, because I was using the wrong tool. Willpower depletes. It runs out under stress, under fatigue, under social pressure, under the 100 small decisions that eat it alive every day. Building a financial strategy on top of unlimited willpower is like building a house on the assumption it won't rain. Willpower dependent financial behavior looks like this: budgeting only when you remember to open the spreadsheet, saving only when you manually move the money, avoiding bad purchases only when you're in the right headspace. Every single one of those is a point of failure, and daily life will find every point of failure every time. Systems don't deplete. Automate the savings transfer. The decision happens once, not every month. Unsubscribe from retail emails. The temptation doesn't even arrive. Use a separate spending account with a fixed balance. The money to overspend literally isn't there. Set bills on autopay. The on-time payment happens whether you remember it or not. Every habit you can move from willpower dependent to system dependent is a habit that stops needing your attention and just starts working correctly by default. Your willpower is valuable. Stop spending it on things a good system can handle for free. I never talked about money. Not really. And it cost me more than almost anything else on this list. Money is the one subject that stays completely off the table. You can talk about relationships, health, family drama, politics. All of that is easier than asking a friend how much they make or telling someone you're working on getting out of debt. The silence around money is so thick that most people navigate their entire financial lives without ever comparing notes, asking for real advice, or admitting out loud that they're struggling. I thought that silence was just how adults handled it: professional, private, mature. Turns out it was expensive. I found out through a conversation that almost didn't happen that a colleague with the same job title had negotiated a salary 22% higher than mine. Same role, same company, same level. She asked. I never asked. Because it never occurred to me that I was allowed to. 3 years, a 22% gap. Gone because I inherited a script that said money conversations were off limits. And I never once questioned whether that script was actually serving me. And it goes deeper than salary. When you don't talk about money, you lose your sense of what's normal and what's actually possible. You assume the friend who seems to have it together is doing fine, when really they're carrying 40,000 in debt behind a very convincing face. You assume your approach is solid because nobody's challenged it, when 10 minutes of a real conversation could have shown you a blind spot you've been walking past for years. You don't have to broadcast your finances, but find one person, a friend who's actually trying to build something, a financial advisor, an online community with real goals. Have one honest conversation. The information on the other side is worth more than the comfort of the silence. I would spend 4 hours watching a documentary without thinking twice, 2 hours scrolling with nothing to show for it. But actually sit down and learn how money works for 2 hours? That always felt like something I'd get to later, when things settled down, when I was more ready. Financial illiteracy is the most expensive thing most people own. I mean that literally. It is the root of almost everything on this list. I paid myself last because nobody taught me to do otherwise. I carried credit card debt for years because I'd never actually been shown what compound interest looks like when it's working against you. I avoided investing because the language felt foreign and the risk felt overwhelming, and nobody ever made it simple enough for me to start. But here's the part I didn't understand until later. The cost isn't just the bad decisions you make, it's the compounding of what you don't know. Every year you go without understanding how a Roth IRA works, what a tax bracket actually means, how index funds function. That gap isn't neutral. It gets more expensive over time, quietly, in ways you can't even calculate because you don't know what you're missing. That's compound ignorance. And it works exactly like compound interest, except it's working against you. The financial system is not designed to explain itself. Credit card agreements bury the numbers that matter. Investment fees live in documents engineered not to be read. Tax advantages go unclaimed by millions of people who just didn't know to ask. The gap between what you know and what you don't isn't neutral, it's actively expensive. 1 hour a week, 6 months, books, decent podcasts, a real conversation with someone who knows more than you do. That investment pays back at a rate almost nothing else in your life can match. Not to become an expert, just to stop leaving money on the table you didn't even know was there. I had goals, real ones. I thought about them constantly. I wanted to own a home. I wanted to stop carrying the low-grade anxiety of not knowing where things stood. I wanted to retire someday at an age that still made sense. But I had no written plan, no numbers, no timeline, no specific allocation for what each dollar was actually supposed to do. Just a vague, strong preference for a different financial situation. And I had confused that feeling with a plan. A feeling is not a plan. A feeling is where a plan starts. Vagueness is where financial intentions go to die quietly. Without specifics, goals stay aspirational forever. You can't measure progress towards something you haven't defined. You can't tell if you're on track when you haven't decided what on track actually looks like. A written plan doesn't need to be complicated. 5 things: what comes in each month, what goes out and where, what you owe and to whom, what you're building toward and by when, and what you're changing starting now. That's it. One page, a notes app, the back of an envelope. The format doesn't matter, the specificity does. The first time I wrote mine down, it took 40 minutes. For the first time in 5 years, I actually knew where I was going. Before I leave you, I want to put one number on the table: the forgotten subscriptions, roughly $2,000 a year over 5 years. The deal buying habit, over 1,000 a year most years. The status purchases that quietly added hundreds a month to my fixed costs. The interest on debt I treated like wallpaper, close to $5,000 in charges over 3 years, buying me nothing. The lifestyle inflation that swallowed every raise before I could redirect any of it. The investment growth I didn't get because I kept waiting until I felt more ready, added up. It comes close to $47,000. Not from one catastrophic mistake, from 11 habits that each felt completely reasonable on their own. I'm not going to tell you I fixed all of it at once. I fixed one thing first: set up the automatic transfer, then audited the subscriptions, then stopped buying things just because they were on sale, one at a time. That's the whole approach. There isn't a faster version of this. The gap between effort and outcome isn't permanent. It's just a pattern you haven't interrupted yet. Every habit on this list has the same DNA. A default behavior nobody taught you to question, a normalized pattern that feels responsible because everyone around you does it too. None of these are character flaws. They're just patterns. And patterns, once you can see them clearly, can be changed. Pick the one that hit hardest, the one where you recognized yourself most clearly. Start there. If Rosa's story felt close to home, if you caught yourself thinking, "that's me," more than once, subscribe. Because this is the kind of conversation nobody was having with us when we actually needed it. So we're having it here. Start with one, just one, today.